Okay, I'd like to check first if everybody can hear me
Yes, Pastor.
clearly.
Yes, Pastor.
Crystal clear, clear, Pastor.
All right. So, once again, it's good to be together on this Friday night as we go through the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth by John Maxwell. So, tonight we are now in law number 9, the law of the ladder. So, as you can see in the right side of our presentation, there's a ladder there. So, it's like it's not a stairs, but it's a ladder, okay, where you climb up that ladder, and uh, you climb up the rungs of that ladder. See, so the vertical lines there. So that's the rungs of the ladder. But it's all about character growth. It's all about who we are on the inside. Because the law of the ladder says character growth determines the height of your personal growth. Now, look at the ladder on this slide. What happens if the rungs on that ladder are weak or are frail or are breakable? Would you be able to go up that ladder if the rungs or if the ladder is not strong? Okay, definitely you would say, no, you cannot. You cannot go up because if if the rungs in that ladder are weak or if they easily break, then you would fall. Okay, now it's the same thing with our character. Many of us have seen so many successful people fail, destroy their marriages, destroy their ministry, destroy their lives simply because of whether it's a sin, whether it's a wrong decision, but it all boils down to what's inside. It's the character. So what happens if almost up there in the at the height of the ladder, but many so-called people fall down flat on their faces because of poor character. So that's what we are going to learn about tonight. This is very, very important because it's not just about the height of your growth, but what will keep you strong, what will sustain you, and what will ensure that you will reach that height of growth that you desire, and that is your character. So that's the importance of what we're going to talk about tonight. Now, Doug Farbo said, achievement to most people is something you do. True, right? So when you are, for example, when you're a student, or you're an athlete, or you when you are an employee, so your achievements normally they are attached to what you do, your performance, your accomplishments. But it says here, to the achiever, it is something you are. Okay, it's what's inside you. It's not just what you have accomplished, what you did, but it's who you are. It's within you. That's the achiever, not just the output or the outcome, but it's who you are. It's you. You are the achievement. If that achievement really came from inside. Another very good quote is from John Wooden. Here, he has what differentiated character from reputation. So when you talk about reputation, it's how people see you at the outside. Okay, it's your reputation. It's what people think of you, what people say about you. It's what they see. But character is what is inside. It's who you really are. So again, please be aware about the difference between reputation and character. So reputation is the outside. It's what people see. It's what we try to show. Okay. But character is who we really are. Okay. So while reputation is, of course, what other people think of us. Now, think about this. Your reputation, our reputation, does not always match our character. What people see and what people know about us does not always mean that that's who we really are. Now, the problem is eventually, okay, the character will show up. Okay, that's why um, there are a lot of leaders, okay, both in government, both in business, and especially in the ministry that have shown, manifested good reputation, but eventually their real character were exposed and their whole reputation came destroyed. Okay, it just destroyed everything they have established, they have written, they have spoken about, because it's not it's not really who they are. There's a mismatch between what people see at the outside and who we are on the inside. That's why the quote here says, be more concerned with your character, be more concerned of what's inside than your reputation. Because eventually, the real you, the real person inside will come out. Okay? So it's very important to think about this. I also like this quote. If your character is not strengthening, your future is weakening. Think about it. Okay. Now, can you imagine again, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, the height of the success that we will achieve will definitely be dependent on the strength of our character. Because as I've said, even if we have accomplished so much, whether in your career, whether in your ministry, just one exposure of an ungodly character, of a sin, of a flaw, could destroy everything, could destroy your future. That's why it is important that as we grow in our personal life, personal growth, we take care of our character. All right. So, in your workbook, worksheets, we have made it easier. So, if you're following, the answers in the worksheets are underlined in the presentation. So, good changes, that's the first point. Ambition without guidance. So, think for a moment that you have an ambition. Okay, you have an ambition, but there's no ethics, there's no values, there's no character that you or there's no biblical standards that you are following. So what happens is you try to reach that goal, that ambition, without considering how you will get there. So, um, for example, a very good example, my ambition is to get rich, okay, just to have plenty of money at my disposal. So if I don't have um, values or biblical uh, standards or principles that I follow or ethics, then I will achieve that ambition, whether the means to achieve it are good, whether I will achieve it using um, good ways, or I will not hurt anybody. So that means I will have reached my goal, my ambition, but I did not do anything wrong. That's the balance. But if there's no guidance, then you will just have to reach your goal no matter what the means. for some, it doesn't, it means, okay, I don't care who I run over, who I hurt along the way, who I steal from, okay, who I hurt, as long as I reach my ambition. So this is the importance of character. This is the importance of values. This is the importance of ethics. Okay, in the world, it's called ethics. The the idea, the belief of right and wrong. Right. So there should be guidance. Now, for us Christians, of course, we are guided by the Word of God. We are guided by the will of God, and we are guided by the ways of God. That's why um, it's not okay for Christians just to reach their ambition using any means, even if the means are not biblically correct. Now, I will share with you a verse. This is one of my favorite verses in the Bible. It's Joshua 1:8. Okay, it talks about the book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. Okay, so mark the term good success. You have reached your ambition, you have reached your goal, you have achieved your objective, but you did not do anything wrong. That means you do it, you achieve good success through the means that God has given you. So that's what we say. Um, these are good changes. All right. The next thing is in your workbook, to be a success, think like a success. Success is a state of mind. If you want success, start thinking of yourself as a success. All right. So if you feel like you're a loser, you're a victim, then all your life you will manifest that kind of mindset. Now we go to the value of character. So this is very interesting. I'd like to share with you this study. Okay, so that means this is not just anecdotal. These are, these have uh, this is the product of years, 25 years of research. Okay, so this is empirical. Professors James Kozes and Barry Posner have spent more than 25 years surveying leaders in virtually every type of organization, in which they ask, okay, this is the question: what values, personal traits, or characteristics do you look for and admire in a leader? All right. So can you please try to think about this question? If ever somebody would approach you and say, and ask you these questions: what values, personal traits, or characteristics do you look for and admire in a leader? Now, this research um, covered more than 25,000 people, and the survey happened in 6 different continents: Africa, North America, South America, Asia, Europe, and Australia. Now, what do you think is the result? Okay, so the results have been striking in regularity over the years, and they do not significantly vary by demographical, organizational, or cultural differences. What this means is whether you're in Asia, you're in South America, you're in Europe, the answers are common. Okay. So again, going back to you, if you will be asked this question: what values, personal traits, or characteristics do you look for and admire in a leader? Of course, we have our own ideas, but let me show you what this research has found out. So here's the result. These are the characteristics of an admired leader by Causes and Postner. So as you've seen, there are various characteristics, right? Ambitious, broad-minded, caring, competent, cooperative, courageous. Maybe some of your answers fall under these characteristics: dependable, determined, fair. Okay? Forward looking, strategic, honest, imaginative, independent, inspiring, intelligent, loyal, mature, self controlled, straightforward, supportive. But what do you think got the highest response? Okay? As you can see, in almost every survey conducted, you know what's the number one characteristics that people look for in a leader? It's honesty. Honesty. Wow. People look for honesty. Honesty has been selected more often than any other leadership characteristics. Again, this is a product of a 25-year research across the globe, regardless of religion, regardless of culture, regardless of um, geographical location. Honesty is important to everyone. Now, as you reflect about this um, result, okay, it's really honesty, because when someone is honest, then he is trustworthy, then he has integrity, then we can count on him, then we can count on his words. So can you imagine the impact? I think no, I think we realize this, that um honesty is very important. That means if a leader begins to lie, if a leader begins to cover up, if a leader begins to pretend, if a leader begins to say something and does another thing, we don't want that. Okay. So it's the character, it's honesty. We want someone who can who who can stand on his word, who can we can take his word and really trust that he will do what he said, and not deceive us or lie to us, or sugarcoat, okay, truths, just to be popular. All right. So I hope, if you are a pastor like me, or if you're a leader, I hope this will open our eyes. People are looking for authenticity. Okay. People are not looking for perfect leaders. In fact, um, when we talk about our strengths, our successes, our victories, that's good. But probably some people can celebrate with us. But it's when we talk about our failures, our weaknesses, our own shortcomings, that people begin to connect with us. People begin to realize that, we are, the leader understands what I'm going through. So again, honesty. And even the Bible, okay, if we go back to the Bible, it's always the truth. Okay, the truth. We want God is the author of the truth. All right. Now look at this. This is very important. 99% of leadership failures are failures of character. Now, this past few years, we have heard, we have encountered so many popular um, Christian leaders, authors, big time pastors, and they eventually got exposed for some sins that they have covered up in their lives. And again, it's failure of character. Oh, no, not not just in the church setting, but even in politics. Okay, do you trust the government? Do you trust your political leaders? Do you trust your um, uh, congressman or senators? So it's always about character. If We cannot trust people. It's because they have failed to show honesty and they failed to show integrity in their character. So, again, it is very important to grow in our character. Most people focus too much on competence, okay, but too little on character. That's why um, if you're a parent, if you're a father or mother, you would probably think, okay, when you look at your son or your daughter, it's not just about intelligence. It's not just about information or knowledge that he or she can get in school. What values does um, our son, my son, uh, get from the environment? Okay, it's not just about intelligence. It's not just about intellect. It's about character. Um, I remember, I cannot really forget this because when I was still in Iloilo, I would, as much as possible, I'd like to speak with our pastor, Pastor Velasol then. And he would always complain, would always complain about Bible students or Christians that lack character. And of course, I'm not saying I'm an exemption, but he would always put emphasis on the character. The 4 years that students would stay in Bible school is not just about filling their minds with information or with filling their minds with doctrinal truths, but it's also molding their character because that will determine the success in the ministry someday. Even if you know a lot, even if you know more than anybody else, without character, you will most likely fail. So again, let's let's not just focus on competence. Let's also focus on building our character. Now, um, this is these are the rungs on the character leader or ladder. Sorry. So again, the ladder, okay, the one that you hold on to when you climb up are the rungs, okay, and these are the rungs on the character ladder of John Maxwell. So he's given his this principles, these rungs, okay, for for um, as he goes up in the ladder. First, he said, I will focus on being better on the inside than outside. Okay. Focusing on the inside more than the outside. Focusing on your character more than on your reputation. And this is what the book of Proverbs says, right? As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So it's about who you are inside that matters. It's who you are inside that's really who you are, not what you project outside, not what other people may see, but it's who you are, how God sees you. Okay, when nobody's watching, when you're alone, that's who you are. All right. So what we believe matters, really matters. What we reap, okay, it's because of what we have sown. Okay, we sow, we reap what we sow. What we do or neglect to do in the privacy of our daily lives impacts who we are. Moms and sirs, the last statement is very important. What we do or not do in the privacy of our daily lives impacts who we are. Okay? What do we do when we're alone? What do we watch when nobody's watching us? Where do we go when nobody knows? What do we do when nobody sees? Okay, that's very important. Okay, so focusing on the inside rather than the outside. Private victories precede public victories. You can't invert that. process any more than you can harvest a crop before you plant it. That means if you will have private victories, it was preceded by public victories. Okay? Or sorry, if there are public victories, I should say, it is preceded by private victories. That means it starts from within, not outside in, but inside out. Winning in life is more than just money. It's about winning on the inside and knowing that you have played the game of life with all you had and then some. Now, the next rung on the character ladder is I will follow the golden rule. People matter. Okay. So people, that means we don't just think about ourselves, we think about other people. And the Bible has so much to say. Now, the golden rule is almost in every culture, in every religion. Okay. So that means it's common. Maybe for some it's presented in the negative. Do not do unto others what you would not want them to do to you. Okay, but of course we know that in the Bible it's the positive. Okay, you do to others what you want them to do to you. That's what Jesus said in Matthew 7:12. Therefore, all things whatsoever you would that man should do to you, do ye even so to them. And this is the summary of the law and the prophets. Okay, that's why it's called the golden rule, because okay, you don't really need laws, ordinances, rules. All right. All you have, it's going to be that simple. Do unto others what you would want them do to you. Okay. If you don't, if you want others to respect you, then respect them. If you want others to help you, then help them. Okay. If you want others to um, not hurt you, then don't hurt them. Things like that. Very, very simple. That's the summary, okay, of the golden rule. Do, okay? That means you don't do the things that you don't want others to do to you, right? Now, ask yourself what you want people to do for you, then grab the initiative and do it for them. Okay? It's not actually not doing anything. It's doing. It's proactive. It's positive. Do what you want others to do to you. Okay? People matter. So that means when you are climbing up the ladder, there will always be temptation to cheat on people, to cheat on others, to deceive others, to, get ahead of other people or hurt other people or step on some people's toes. The question is, do you want that to happen to you? If not, then don't do it. Okay? It's not right. It's not good. So that should be the character of the leader. Okay, he's not is not um, doing shortcuts. All right, so we're not going to achieve our objectives, our goals at the expense of others. Okay, so it's very important. People matter. Okay, now next, letter C. I will only teach what I believe. Passion matters. Now, there's something here about what we call borrowed beliefs. That means you just borrow it from others, but it's not really your own beliefs. Now, a lot of people, when they talk about borrowed beliefs, they're not as passionate as when they talk about their own personal beliefs. So that means when you talk about something that you do not, maybe you also believe, but it's not really what you believe. There's no passion in it. Okay. In fact, Many people would call it hypocrisy. Okay. That means you talk about something, but you're not really all out about it. You don't 100% believe what you're talking about. And again, what people want, okay, with their leaders is honesty, authenticity. That means when we only teach something that we believe, is very important because when we believe something, that's when we are passionate about it. Okay, that's when we connect to people because we believe what we talk about. We believe what we preach or what we tell people. Um, Again, it's very important that we develop that authenticity about talking or preaching or saying something that we believe because passion matters. All right? Borrowed beliefs have no passion. Therefore, it has no power. Um, I mean, all of us have gone through this, but there's one preaching. Okay, there's one preaching about hell that I cannot forget. I think this one, if you know Pastor Nibunan, there was a preaching by Pastor Nibunan before that he was just speaking this very simply. He just asked, "Do you believe in hell?" Okay, and of course, the natural response is, "Of course, I do." But there's a follow-up question: Do you really believe in hell? Now, the second question actually made me think because if I really believe that there's a hell and those who have not trusted Christ as their personal Savior will eventually end up in that Christless eternity, then many of the things that I do, many of my priorities, many of the things that um, you know, I live for, actually, they do not matter. So it's when we really believe in something that there's passion, okay, when we talk about it because we really believe it, okay, compared with we don't. We just borrowed that belief. It was just passed on to us, but we have not made it our own belief. All right. Now, letter D, I will value humility above all virtues. Perspective matters. Now, humility. Um, I remember I went or I have undergone a an executive leadership training 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And one of our speakers was talking about what's missing in government leaders. And she spoke about what do you think is the leadership quality that many government officials do not have. People, of course, talk about integrity and so on and so on. Actually, the whole class never got it right. At the end of the talk, the teacher said, actually, it's humility. One quality, one characteristic that many in government right now do not have, which we all need, is humility. Okay. Um, do you know that many of us, we can't be too proud? We are just one mistake away from failure. Okay. We conclude that uh, while nobody plans to mess up their life, the problem is that a few of us plan not to. Okay. We don't want to mess up, but actually, we don't have a plan how not to mess up. Okay. That is, we don't put the necessary safeguards in place to ensure a happy ending. Okay, we just want not to mess up, not to fail. But in reality, there is no plan, there is no safeguards in place to ensure that we don't mess up. Okay, now here's another thing. I'd like to share with you this. Um, I think it's a poem about the indispensable man. Many of us, think that, oh, I'm very important. I'm. The church will not survive without me. The organization will not go on without me. The the group cannot go on without me. Okay, that's not true. Okay, we'll just please read this with me. Okay, because this is a very nice poem actually. Sometime when you're feeling important, sometime when your ego's in bloom, sometime when you take it for granted, you're the best qualified in the room. Sometime when you feel that you're going would leave an unfillable hole. Just follow these simple instructions and see how they humble your soul. Take a bucket and fill it with water. Put your hand in it up to the wrist. Pull it out, and the hole that's remaining is a measure of how you'll be missed. You can splash all you wish when you enter. You may stir up the water galore, but stop, and you'll find that in no time it looks quite the same as before. The moral of this quaint example is to do just the best that you can. Be proud of yourself, but remember, there's no indispensable man. And I've realized this to be true. A few hours, few days after they bury us, many people would forget about us. Okay. Life will go on. The organization will find a new leader. The church will find a new pastor. Okay. There's no indispensable. But that means we should be humble. Okay. We can do what we can for the Lord. Let's serve the Lord. Let's serve other people. And that's it. Okay. Don't ever think that you are indispensable. I like this if you can see the picture. Oh God, thy sea is so great and my boat is so small. It's actually a realization of who we really are compared with the greatness of God. Okay. And of course, the world. If you have rode an airplane, okay, just a few feet, okay, up the ground, you cannot see people anymore. That's how insignificant we are. So remember the big picture. That means we can't be too proud. Okay, let's continue to be humble because without God, we are really nothing. We are here. If God can use us, then that's the best way to live this one short, precious life that we have. Okay. Um, Next, recognize that everyone has weaknesses. Okay. So humility is not denying that you have gifts. Okay. There are a lot of things that you're good at. But humility is recognizing that you have weaknesses. That means if I'm good at something, I should not deny that. Okay, then I'm good at something. That's my gift. But humility is not denying that I have some gifts that God has given me, but it's recognizing that I have a weakness. So how to remain humble? Admit your weaknesses. Be patient with others' weaknesses and be open to correction. I think this is very important because one of the characteristics of a successful person is teachability. Okay? Teachability. That means you can correct that person. He's open to correction. He is open to uh, being taught. Once a person can no longer be taught, once a person thinks that he has everything and can no longer learn from other people, that's the time he stops growing. Okay. That's the time we are too proud of what we have achieved and we are actually nothing. So let's admit our weaknesses, let's be patient with others' weaknesses, and let's be open to correction. I think, and I have seen this, that those who are successful are humble enough to admit their mistakes. They are humble enough not to pass the blame on other people. Um, Again, I'm part of an organization, and I always hear this. I always hear this complaint from employees. I don't like my boss because he seems to pass the blame on his subordinates. He cannot take responsibility. He cannot take accountability, but he would pass it on and pass the blame on others. That's not good. Okay. So admit if we have shortcomings, let's admit it. Let's be humble enough to say, I'm sorry, I'll try to improve. I'll work on that. That makes us patient with other people's weaknesses as well. And let's be open to correction. Another thing, be willing to serve others. Humility is about serving others. It's not about being served. It's not about being the boss. It's not about it's not about receiving, it's about giving, being willing to serve others. The arrogant person considers himself perfect, and this is the chief harm of arrogance. You can no longer improve as a person. But again, in the Bible, the perspective of the Lord Jesus Christ is very different. Okay? The greatest is actually the least. The greatest is not the leader, it's the servant. That's why we have what we call servant leadership. Leadership is not about being bossy, it's about serving others. All right? Now, still with humility, being grateful, there's no such thing as a self made man. When you look at yourself, when I look at myself, maybe I have achieved something, maybe I have reached somewhere that some people may have not reached. But I have to remember, I am not a self made person. A lot of people have contributed for me to have reached this far. A lot of people have prayed for me. A lot of people have given. A lot of people have taught me. There are so many people who have contributed, and that will make us humble individuals. Okay? We are not self-made. We are made up accumulation of teachings and help and encouragement and prayer and support. So let's not be too proud, but be grateful for those who have contributed for us to be successful. And of course, the Apostle Paul would say it this way in 1 Corinthians 15:10, but by the grace of God, I am what I am. Okay? He did not get the credit for what he has become. It is always and only by the grace of God. And his grace, which was bestowed upon me, was not in vain, but I labored more abundantly than they all, yet not I, but the grace of God which was with me. It's the grace of God. One of the favorite lines I have in that hymn, Amazing Grace. This grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. If until up to this point of my life, God can still use me, it's all by His grace. And it's still His grace that will lead me up to the finish line. So we cannot be so proud, brothers and sisters. The next thing is, I will strive to finish well. Faithfulness matters. Okay? So in life, one can never stop. Either we're done or we keep going. Okay? So that's why we have to keep going. Our growth in character also will not stop as we age. It will continue even up to the last day of our lives here on earth. That's why for the Apostle Paul in 2 Timothy 4:7, he says, I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Now that I am older, I would look up to people and say, what what really matters at the end of one's life? I have seen in my lifetime people who have, they started off well. They were popular. They were famous pastors. They were good. They have big churches, but along the way, because of failure of character, they did not finish well. But I also can look at some of the pastors I've been through, my pastors like in Iloilo Calvary Baptist Church, who were not popular, who were not famous, who were not, I mean, probably nobody, um, not a lot of people know them, but they were faithful till the very end. They were faithful with their marriages. Were faithful with their family. They were faithful with their ministry. They were faithful with what God has given them. They may not be famous, but I realize that's what I want. I would rather be someone who is not popular or, I mean, and finish well than someone who, like a celebrity pastor or a celebrity uh, uh, preacher, but eventually God has to humble them down because of pride. So faithfulness matters. Character, okay? Character is very important. It's not the what we show outside. It's what's inside that really matters. And of course, for us believers, we're closing with this, with the two more verses. Well, in Romans 12:1 and 2, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. For us believers, Bible believers, Christians, it's all about Christ who lives in me. It's about the Holy Spirit performing his transforming work in me, so that my life is transformed by the renewing of my mind, so that what my desire is just to prove, to know, and to live what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Now, in closing, when you look at this picture, what comes into your mind? Of course, it's a ship, right? It's a ship that may have been, may have been beautiful. It may have been useful. It may have caught a lot of fish previously. Maybe a lot of people have used it, but over time, it's not useful anymore. It's not. It's actually an eyesore. All right. But I showed you this picture because this is an example of a life that has not finished well. In 1 Timothy 1:19, holding faith and a good conscience, which some having put away concerning faith have made shipwreck. If we do not take care of our character, if we do not take care of who we are inside, there's a possibility that our life will be just like this shipwreck. That is why in the same book, First Timothy 4:16, Paul said to Timothy, take heed unto thyself. That's who you really are. That's inside your character, and unto the doctrine. That's what you believe, the truth. Continue in them. Be faithful until the end. For in doing this, thou shalt both save thyself and them that hear thee. The context is not about salvation of our souls, it's salvation, being saved from being shipwrecked, being saved from a life that has failed because of failure in character. It is a life that can say at the end of a race, I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Character is very important. Character growth will determine the height of your personal growth. And so, for our group discussion, I hope you can um, take this down. How do you ensure in your life that your focus is more on your character or your inside than on your reputation or your outside? Okay, how do you do that? Can you share with your group? I think most of us know these already. So how do you do it? To focus not just on the clothes that you wear, your buying things to make you look better, but what's more important is the inside. The second question is, what are you doing every day to develop the habit of character growth? Okay. What are you doing? For some, it could be prayer, Bible study, meditation, or any spiritual disciplines that you do. Can you share it with others so that they can also benefit from it? And if you still have time, how would you define humility? Based on what we have learned, that humility is not about denying your strengths, your gifts. It's about acknowledging your weakness. All right? So I hope we have a good discussion after this. Back to you, Mama Earl.